I'm the exception to it, not the norm. And I'll say that by saying this. I've said since I started in this industry, there are good businessmen and there are good pavers and seal coaters. We doubled in revenue.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
We almost quadrupled in profitability, and we didn't hire a single employee other than me.
How long did it take? All right, well, thank you so much for being willing to do this. I really appreciate you taking the time to come in and share your story. So the best place to start for us is to jump on into the very beginning. Take your time and tell us, how did you end up becoming, I guess, one of the largest franchisees for SealMaster?
So at the time, I was living in Ohio, where the headquarters of SealMaster is, and I grew up on a big farm, but I also had to work a real job to help support the family and everything. And we knew the founder of SealMaster, but I knew him in a different circle of life. His name was Dave Weichel. He started the company in 1969, and but I knew him as Dave Weichel, a friend of my grandfather's. And I walked in and said, "Are you guys hiring?" The lady gives me a application like everybody does, and I start filling it out, and all of a sudden I hear Sayler, and I look up, and it's Dave a different Dave, not the founder, but Dave Shoup, who ended up being my mentor. And he's like, "Stop filling that out." He's like, we're always looking for good, farm boys and that kind of stuff. And so I go in and we start talking, and how I knew Dave was he was from our hometown. So he knew me growing up, and he's like, "Look, I know your background. I know what you're capable of," that kind of stuff. And he's like, we're always looking for guys like that. Sort of started off on the ground floor, literally doing, equipment and machining and building the equipment, to apply the SealMaster product. To me, I just always pictured sales as like the used car salesman, the big old fat belly and gold rings and a gold necklace and, "Come on in." And I'm like, I want no part of that. I'm too old fashioned, too old school for that kind of, I just don't want. And he's like, "That's not what it is." And so they sort of forced me out of doing that and into sales. So after doing sales, I sort of fell in love with it, actually. I was the type of guy where I'd keep a change of clothes in the truck and a toolbox in the back seat at all times. I would go and work on their stuff, and I didn't charge them anything. It was just I was going to see them anyways, or I'd be walking around with them. I'm like, "Hey, you need to address this. This is going to be a problem soon." But there was value that we, as a salesperson, I started adding that. I don't know. It's a good feeling, You get people that they really value you and what you have to offer them and that kind of stuff. When they forced me into managing the franchise system, I was like, I don't want to do this. But they forced me, and, and looking back, one of the coolest things that I got to do was I got to go around the country, and I got to see some of the brightest minds in the industry on what they had done to streamline, make more efficient, their plants all around the country. So again, I started to fall into that, okay, this isn't so bad. You start saving them money, making them more efficient, that kind of stuff. And that same kind of bond, gets formed.
Well, I think we did a good job in the very beginning of branding ourselves and having a vision. But David told me the first day that I met him, he drove by my office and saw the blackjack on the side of the building. And he said, "That guy, whoever that is, that guy wants to market or wants to market his business. He may not know how to market his business, but he wants to market his business."
But it wasn't just that. I mean, it was whether I was seeing it pop up on Facebook, the videos, the drone footage.
Yeah, and what they did
that's
for
what
us.
I was talking about.
And that's what they did for us. They took us to the next level. They took our desire and turned it into a reality. It was.
And there's not a lot of great marketers in the industry that will, can work with paving or asphalt companies and make them look good.
Right.
What we were talking about, you have to be this much faster than your competition. Man, the industry as a whole is very underserved.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity for us, for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.